Hey, what's up y'all? Q here. First off, happy Halloween. Such an amazing time of the year. So to celebrate, I decided it would be fitting to cover none other than the Scary Godmother specials, which would be Scary Godmother Halloween Spooktacular and its sequel Scary Godmother The Revenge of Jimmy. I really do admire these movies, and though the animation hasn't exactly aged the best, I still find it very charming over 20 years later. The first movie was aired in 2003 on Cartoon Network, while its sequel aired 2 years later in 2005. So with all that out the way, let's just jump right into the first movie. So the movie starts off on Halloween night where Jimmy and his friends, Katie, Daryl, and Bert are meeting up in a cemetery so they can all go trick-or-treating together. However, Jimmy was forced to bring his little cousin Hannah trick-or-treating alongside him, where it's explained in this not-so-subtle meta-joke.
Flashback? Flashback.
Hit it!
Are you anxious to get outside with all the monsters, Pumpkin?
Monsters? Oh, she'll be fine. She'll be with Jimmy and his friends. They're very responsible. Especially that Katie.
Okay, for real though, this joke was definitely ahead of its time. So Jimmy and his friends attempt to use Nasty Plot by trying to scare Hannah with the spook house to get her to go home. Jimmy convinces her to go inside and leave candy in the basement
to keep the monsters from eating every kid in the world. And guess who's the new kid?
She does just that, but very shortly after becomes terrified and books it out the mansion, or so she tries to. Safe to say the plan was set to work, but these dumbasses overextended by keeping her locked inside the spook house until she ends up breaking down into tears.
You had one job.
Just the one?
Just then, Scary Godmother shows up with a very dramatic entrance on some JoJo-like energy. She explains to Hannah that she showed up because Hannah needed her. Hannah tells her that she's afraid of monsters and it's what caused her to break down. So to try to change her mind, Scary Godmother decides to take Hannah to her home in the Fright side for their annual Halloween party and to show her that monsters actually aren't that bad. Honestly, I know I said the animation wasn't all that, but man, the creativity was seriously on point for this brief montage to Scary Godmother's crib. This movie really is anything but dull, I'll give it that. We cut back to Jimmy and the gang still laughing at deserting Hannah, but the enjoyment turns real quick to paranoia when they see she hasn't ran out the house yet. Yeah, that was seriously a smooth brain moment of them. They really had everything on lock, but they just had to flub on holding that damn door shut. I'm sorry, I'm never gonna get over that. Meanwhile, Scary Godmother's looking for one of her roommates, but just then a skeleton pops right out of the closet. Scary Godmother introduces him as Mr. Pettybones, or Scully for short. He's very charismatic and friendly, but the whole skeleton in the closet joke being a double entendre is something I never actually got as a kid watching this. You'll understand what I mean the second you hear him speak.
Hannah, this is Mr. Pettibone. He's our official skeleton in the closet.
Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Hannah.
Does everyone have a skeleton in their closet?
Almost everyone, little miss. I work in the closets of all the old houses.
Scary Godmother then very quickly sets up her crib for the annual Halloween party. How she does this in record time and still very flashy, I gotta admit, is pretty impressive. We soon come back to Jimmy and the gang, still pondering over what they should do over the Hannah gone missing thing. Well, sort of. More so they're mad that they're missing out on Halloween because of this dilemma. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest real quick, this B-plot is just okay. There are some funny moments that I'll eventually cover here in a bit, but just know, this movie is hard carried by the A-plot at Scary Godmother's party.
Bert, nobody puts CBs in SUVs these days.
You just left your baby cousin to the mercy of killer monsters on Halloween night, and you're concerned with the additions and upgrades in my cardboard SUV?
Good point.
Speaking of which, we once again cut back to the party, and the first guest to arrive is Harry the Wolf. Oh man, the way this character was written was such genius for back in his time. Very impulsive, self-centered, addicted to food, very talkative. Mixed with that theme he has, it's comedy gold, baby.
Mind if I do? Where are those wonderful smells emanating from? The goodie plate, I believe. You won't mind if I just sample the delicacies, do you?
Ow! No! Down, boy!
Bro was a walking Twitter Reddit user long before either of those platforms existed. That's the best way I could describe him. Scary Godmother gets Harry to finally shut up by fourth wall breaking a peanut butter and jam cracker sandwich and shoving it into his mouth. So after that brief yet hilarious introduction, we are now introduced to Count Max, Ruby, and their son Orson, who are all vampires. They humbly get invited in, and frame one turn their attention to Hannah when Scary Godmother mentions,
Help yourselves to the food.
Scary Godmother!
Scary Godmother stops them from getting their free eats by quickly saying Hannah's her friend. So Orson and Hannah begin to hit it off as friends, despite living two entirely different lifestyles. So shenanigans occur and Harry can once again talk. But it's short-lived. The party seems to be going without a hitch, but Max is getting too fed up with Harry and compels him to sleep.
Hey! You starting the party without me?
But just then we are introduced to the final character in Scary Godmother's other broommate, Bugaboo. Hannah sees him and goes straight Panic and Anakin mode.
If I start scaring kids after hours, I'm gonna put in for overtime.
Bugaboo tries to calm her down, but instead we are hit with a wacky chase montage. Bugaboo feels hurt from Hannah and decides to leave, but she quickly comes to realize he's just a big and scary monster, not an asshole. So she apologizes and the party continues without a hitch.
After all, it is my house. That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
We go through a dance sequence which, again, animation-wise, it doesn't look all that great, but I absolutely love the creativity of it. I know I sound like a broken record saying that, but I'm being so serious. This movie is very, very creative. I don't know how else to describe it. We cut back to Jimmy and friends. Now, everyone is turning off their lights, meaning Halloween is over, so they bicker about whether they should just go in and get Hannah or continue waiting. They play rock, paper, scissors for a voting process. Jimmy comes out on top, and they fully decide to wait it out even longer. Yeah, again, not really much I could really add to this plot, but I digress. Back at the party, Max accidentally frees Harry from the compulsion. Frame 1, he eats all the food, so the broommates order pizza to cover. Scary Godmother tells Harry that he's gonna pay for constantly messing things up for the party. So as the party's coming to a close, Hannah lets everyone know about the myth Jimmy told her, and Bugaboo reveals that he's actually scaring him constantly every other Thursday. So let me get this straight, so he's scaring Jimmy every other Thursday for God knows how long. Damn, Jimmy's really going through it. No wonder he has such a fake mask on trying to gain leadership. After hearing this news, Scary Godmother decides to help Hannah get her lick back on Jimmy and his friends by pranking them. So we finally cut back to Jimmy and the crew. At this point, they finally decide to go in and get her, but then we get another montage of each monster trying to scare them, with Hannah saving them with her flashlight. The crew runs off, and the movie ends with Scary Godmother giving Hannah a key that she can use on any door to return to the Fright side. Okay, so that wraps things up for Halloween Spooktacular. I wouldn't exactly call this special a masterpiece, but if anything, it's a lot of fun. Fun characters with a down-to-earth plot. It's just one big vibe. But man, the writing steals the show. I didn't put every joke in here, but seriously, if you haven't seen it, give it a watch. I still do think it holds up as well as it did back in 2003. So after a flashy title sequence, we are shown Harry is behind the scenes in a studio-like setting, telling the story this time. Scary Godmother tells him the new story, then get his ass back to repaying the debt right afterwards. This is such a fun intro, but it also doesn't overstay its welcome either. Things start off a year after the events from the first movie, and Jimmy's absolutely shook from monsters, now realizing they're real. So when the usual suspects, Katie, Bert, and Daryl, show up to talk about this year's Halloween plans, they notice Jimmy is seriously on edge when they are attacked by all sorts of booby traps.
Are you sleeping? It's only 7.
After all that, Katie begins to explain that they're all cool with Hannah after the events from last year. Daryl begins to talk about Halloween plans, but Jimmy then exclaims,
This year, we're boycotting Halloween.
What?
You serious?
So now realizing that Jimmy's absolutely delusional, his friends leave and Jimmy slowly begins plotting on how to prevent Halloween from happening. We're then cut to Hannah getting prepped for Halloween until she's interrupted by Bugaboo. Hannah explains to Bugaboo that things between her and Jimmy's friends are cool since last year.
And what's a holiday without scares?
Arbor Day.
She then tells him that she needs cobwebs for her decorations, and that's when Bugaboo tells her,
I'm sure Scary Godmother's got extra. This time of year, she's as busy as a mummy at a bandage sale. But I'm sure she'd love to see you. You still got the key she gave you, right? Right.
So with the key in hand, she takes a trip to the Fright side. In the Fright side, we are reintroduced to both Scary Godmother and Scully, who are both insanely busy prepping for Halloween. We are shown Scary Godmother's putting Harry's ass to work to repay all the bullshit he pulled at last year's Halloween party. So after some shenanigans, it's the show's bread and butter, but I personally don't hate it either. Hannah notices Halloween is huge on the calendar, and Scary Godmother explains,
It's the most important holiday for everyone here on the Fright side.
after all that, Scary Godmother hooks up Hannah with the cobwebs, but is suddenly reminded that she has to call Jimmy. Jimmy begins to lose it when he notices his spaghetti has a strange resemblance to Bugaboo. That is, until he gets a call from Hannah. One phone call later with Hannah, he finally uses Nasty Plot to stop Halloween from coming.
I'll just stop Halloween from coming.
Jimmy, what did I tell you about making faces? Stop it or your face will freeze like that!
Oh yeah, whatever. Huh? Uh-oh.
Hannah's disappointed that Jimmy doesn't want to get a pumpkin from the nearby patch, but Scary Godmother reassures her that he'll come around eventually.
Oh, I'm sure he'll find his Halloween spirit.
Whatever helps you sleep at night, Scary Godmother. That tropium must be hitting different. Max, Ruby, and Orson stop by to see if there are any preparations Scary Godmother needs for the upcoming Halloween party, and to show Hannah Orson's Halloween costume for this year's party, which is kind of questionable, I guess. Not my cup of tea, but hey, different folks, different strokes. So after Ruby embarrasses the hell out of Orson, they fully leave and Hannah follows suit right behind them. We cut to Jimmy that same night going to the nearby pumpkin patch, and he begins to straight violate all of the pumpkins. Oh nah, the energy here is straight up sadistic. His face looking crazy. The next morning, Hannah, Bert, Daryl, and Katie show up to grab pumpkins, but they notice that they've all been smashed. So hearing,
Without jack-o'-lanterns, we can't have Halloween! We can't have Halloween! We can't have Halloween! We can't have Halloween!
What is it, Peterson?
I'm not sure. I feel a disturbance.
Halloween begins to shrink on the calendar, and the Fright side slowly changes for the worse. All the pumpkins in Scary Godmother's pumpkin patch begin to disappear, taking Scully, Bugaboo, and Harry with them. We are shown Hannah and the crew still at the patch, still bumped about the pumpkins being smashed, until Hannah lets the guys know that the pumpkins actually are salvageable, despite being messed up. It's insane how just viewing things in a different way can straight up change how you feel about something. So with their spirits now lifted, we're then shown Halloween on the calendar grows back to normal size, and the effects of Scary Godmother's pumpkin patch are reversed. Crisis averted, but I promise you, this is only the beginning. The crew begin to walk back home, but then Jimmy catches wind of their conversation. Bro, what the hell is this shot? Why does his ear look like that? I swear, these really expressive shots bring these movies to life. So Jimmy begins to limp his ass over to the nearest store to tamper with all the candy and costumes.
Jimmy crept out into the night to continue his dastardly plan.
If you're going out, bundle up. It's cold outside.
But Dad!
Don't you butt me, young man. Put something on.
So I know I'm supposed to work for the store, but you're telling me no one saw a kid wearing a red devil suit break into a store? Like seriously, no one witnessed this?
You're busted!
The next morning, Hannah and the crew go to the same store to see every costume being written as flammable and all the candy being written as poisonous. They do their normal freak out, and yet again, the Fright side begins to fall apart, but now, this time, everything begins to disappear until there's nothing left, except for the characters and Scary Godmother's broom. So look, I get it. Seeing all the candy and costumes being tampered with is seriously bad, but there's not, I don't know, a whole nother store near them? Is that really the only store that just happens to exist in this world? So disappointed, the crew all begin walking home until Hannah notices Boozle, Scary Godmother's cat. Yes, I totally forgot its name until rewatch. Pops out of a nearby mailbox to deliver Hannah a message from Scary Godmother. She informs Hannah that the Fright side is about to be sent to the Shadow Realm and that she's the only one who can save them. So Hannah thinks it over and comes up with an idea of making their own treats with the very similar montage from the first movie, and making their own costumes as well. Katie also comes up with an idea of holding a Halloween party, which they all agree would be best at the Spook House. Now with their mind clear and their goals set, they send Jimmy, who now looks way more malevolent before, an invite to the Halloween party. Jimmy claims that he'll be there extra early. Katie points out that there was something off about Jimmy, but no one thinks anything of it. Yeah, Katie's definitely the brightest one in the group. That's not even up for debate. The Fright then reverts back to normal with the house falling on everyone, almost crushing them. Well, things are back to normal again, but I assure you, once again, it's short-lived.
8:01 p.m.
Jimmy pulls up to the Spook House with a lot, and I mean a lot, of toilet paper and begins to TP the Spook House. These shots of Jimmy laughing while violating this house is crazy. Bro, look at this shot. He wants to be Joker so bad. So Hannah and his friends pull up and are flabbergasted to see the Spook House looks absolutely horrible right before the party. Katie screams,
Halloween is ruined! Cancel over!
except instead of the calendar making the date shrink, it's just straight up replaced with November 1st, which is just wild. While I'm watching all this, right, I'm just thinking, damn, Jimmy isn't even doing much to ruin Halloween that they just can't fix or come up with an alternative. I mean, I'll give them the Spook House, but literally everything else is a bit of a reach, but I digress. Anyway, moving on. So as you would expect, the Fright side begins to vanish little by little, starting with Scary Godmother's house disappearing, per usual. But this next scene is probably by far the funniest scene in both movies combined. So first off, Skelly begins to break apart into nothingness, not much there. But then here comes Harry, who literally loses his shirt and claims, "I'm naked!" No lie, Harry's VA really sells this scene to the fullest. I can't even describe it into words. Bro really got me weak watching this. Next up, Bugaboo shrinks down to damn near microscopic and immediately jumps on Harry's shoulders, which again, comedy gold. Scary Godmother loses her color, so now she's just black and white, and the vampire family all become human. The writers and VAs were all in their bag, cause damn, I couldn't come up with this shit even if I tried. My goodness. I know I'm skipping over quite a bit of the jokes between these movies, but if you are that interested, definitely watch them for yourselves. Don't want to spoil all the surprises. So as everyone begins to give up on the party, Hannah begins to express that the house actually looks great. She explains that all the toilet paper look like ghosts, and somehow Katie, Bert, and Daryl all buy this with no hesitation. Hannah is quick thinking, and this is a bit believable, but I guess I just find it hard to believe that all of them buy this. But you know, we got like 10 minutes left in the movie, so yeah, we move on. So with the spirits back up again from the crew, now everything begins to revert back in the Fright side. As Hannah begins to bring everyone over to the Fright side, Jimmy overhears Hannah mention a big prize at the party and decides to pull up in there and try to ruin the party. Post-production cue here. I completely forgot to add this part during the recording, but I wanted to add that TPing the Spook House really shouldn't have any effect since the party's taking place in literally another world, so yes, that is a huge reach for the story. Anyway, moving on. As the gang enters the party, they are suddenly surprised by all the monsters, but they try to laugh it off like we didn't just catch them in 4K being shook. So after a very brief introductions and seeing Daryl glaze up the vampires, the party really kicks off. As you can see here, Jimmy tries to invade and sneak 100 steal the prize, which he does, but not without constantly bumping into everyone on the dance floor. He almost got away with it if it was for Harry accidentally putting this man into the coffee table. While Jimmy's holding yet another L, Max and Ruby are trying to get Orson to wear his prince outfit. Well, that is until Hannah convinces them that Orson should be allowed to be more of a free spirit. Max and Ruby agree, and just then, Scully hooks up Orson with his cowboy outfit. Scary Godmother pops right out and thanks Hannah for not only helping Orson, but for saving all of them from perishing into the void. Hannah also thanks her for letting her bring the crew with her to this year's Halloween party. So here we are. The winner of the costume contest is Jimmy, finally stealing the grand prize. Again though, short-lived when he hears the prize is
Candy?
because now Harry just straight up jumps this kid and proceeds to beat the shit out of him. So we get another quick montage of the commotion until they both hit Bugaboo, launching Harry outside the house. Jimmy and Bugaboo see each other and accidentally scare the hell out of each other, but Bugaboo laughs and praises Jimmy for actually scaring him, and Scary Godmother announces he's the winner. With this, Jimmy is reverted back to a more innocent look and less demonic. Jimmy, still a bit shook from his leg, proceeds to ask Hannah to help him smash the prize, and the party continues without a hitch as Harry gets the door slammed on him. Scary Godmother and Hannah fly to the screen saying,
Happy Halloween to all!
And to all a good fright.
thus ending the movie. In the post scene, Harry is dragged out of the studio and is forced back to work in a very hysterical fashion. So there you all have it. That was both Scary Godmother movies. I have to say, I genuinely do think they found their footing on this one more than the first one. Both absolutely charming in their own right, but the stakes, though kind of stretched for this movie, were a lot higher and a bit more engaging for me personally. Also, the jokes were just as good or even better for this one. These movies, though at this point almost 20 years old, seriously do hold up after all this time, and I definitely recommend it to y'all if y'all haven't seen them already. They are timeless and are a good vibe for this time of the year. With all that being said, that's going to be it for me for today. If you made it to the very end of the video, thank you so much. You all know the vibes. I'll see you all real soon. Have a great Halloween, everyone. You sign out.